Hello, Joshua. How are you today? Delighted to have you with us.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Great. Okay. We have some interesting things to talk about, I understand. Among those, your writing of a book called Religion Unburdened by Belief. And that seems to be, on the face of it, a significant conflict in those two concepts. Tell us a little bit about what your research or your findings have been, and let's have a chat about it.
Sure. So I was inspired to write the book when just accidentally encountered James Carse's book, which has a similar title. His title is The Religious Case Against Belief, and his idea that's where I got my idea from his book that religion and belief point in different directions. Because I really found his analysis very insightful and persuasive, but as he got about halfway through the book, I felt like he kind of dropped the ball and didn't fully develop the idea to its fullest potential. And so that's what I set out to do in my book.
Okay. All right. And you are a psychologist by training.
Yes, so my PhD is in quantitative psychology, which is the part of psychology where it's mostly research focused, where we study how to analyze data and experimental design, and I wrote a lot of software for statistical analyses.
Hmm. Okay. Um, in First of all, what are the conclusions that you reach in your book? Just if we can start there, and then we can back up to how we got to those conclusions.
Okay, um, so um, what my book tries to accomplish is that addressing uh, a need that many people um, may feel, may have thought about, or may just be in the background. This sense of these religious experiences, like for most people, they're like accidental, haphazard. Um, it's not something that you can predict. Like it's very unexpected when you have these moments of beauty and awe and feeling connected to something larger than yourself. And what after reading the book, you should feel empowered to, um, with a set of practices where you can predictably and reliably encounter religious experiences with, enough confidence to schedule it on your calendar.
Okay. When you've identified a religious experience as a feeling of being connected,
Yeah, I mean, I'm just
is there more
describing it in
dimension to
vague.
that?
Yeah, I'm describing it in vague terms to try to be broad and capture um, what many people might agree is a religious experience. Do you want me to be a bit more precise about what I
Yes.
mean, or
Yeah. What
okay,
can you
okay.
put add some dimension to that?
Um, so well, okay. So maybe I could ask you, Dean, like what comes to mind for you when mm, when you consider the term religious experience? Do you have examples in mind, um, or yeah, what do you imagine?
I would distinguish um, a religious experience from a spiritual experience. A religious experience I would categorize as um, a sense of connectedness, but a sense of connectedness of um, um, community or friendship, or more the physical nature of our experience. A spiritual experience, in my perception, is going to transcend that. It's going to be um, uh, possessed of a lot of feeling, a lot of emotion, but it is going to transcend the limitations of a physical experience. And in my perspective, in my experience, what is transpiring in a spiritual experience is a surrender, a temporary surrendering of the identity that we create as part of our incarnation that is who we think we are. It's a hierophant. It's a false perception of self. But in that surrendering is the allowing of our contact and our experience of our authentic self, or as Carl Jung described it, the true self. And so I would make that distinction between religious experience and spiritual experience. Certainly, someone who is practicing a religion can have a spiritual experience, and someone who is a spiritual experiencer undoubtedly will have some number of what would fall under that category of a religious experience as well. But they are just definitively different in the nature, in their nature.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for unpacking your definitions of those terms, Dean. That really helps me. So the language that I've adopted in my book follows the approach that James Cars took. So in my mind, what you describe as a spiritual experience, like I would call that a religious experience, and then the community part of the religion. To me, that's like um, like it could be part of the experience, but it could also just be part of the keeping that belief system going, like authority figures and um, hierarchies, and training people how to, suppose like someone wants to become a priest or rabbi. So what do you need to learn to to fulfill those roles?
Mm-hmm.
So um, I, uh, I think we're talking about the same concepts. Like to me, your spiritual experience sounds like a moment of uh, uh, maybe the non connecting with the non-dual, or a transcendent space, and so that. So I think we're in alignment on kind of the underlying experiences. We're just using different labels to talk about them.
Okay. All right. And so uh, the um, we're obviously talking about experiences rather than a structure or a dogmatic structure. Is that correct in your offerings?
Sorry, your audio dropped out there for a minute. Can you just repeat that?
So we're defining a spiritual experience as opposed to a dogmatic structure that
Yes,
characterized a religion.
yes. So um, the dogmatic structure of the religion, that to me, that's more of a belief system that is kind of overlaid on top of the practices and um, the identity and community of the religion.
Hmm. Okay. And you've also referenced in your write up psychedelic experiences or experiences with hallucinogenics.
Yes.
Does
Uh,
that how does that align with the the spiritual experiences in your perception, or is it not aligned?
Well, no, I think they are related. Like one particular psychedelic, 5-MeO-DMT. It's a short acting psychedelic. Um, the experience is less than an hour, but it's with high likelihood, like more than half the time, it seems to facilitate what you would call a spiritual experience, or what I would call a religious experience, or a non-dual experience. That's a particularly interesting psychedelic, and I also discuss other psychedelics in my book.
And your understanding of the experience, regardless of the duration of the experience under the hallucinogenic, or what is actually transpiring in under the effects of the psychedelic. What is happening to cause that transition, that different in perspective of the experiencer?
Okay, well, I think that's an open research question. Like neuroscientists are still trying to figure out how it works. But like I think we know enough to speculate. I think what it means to be an individual is that your brain computes this boundary between what's myself and what's everything else. So like there's this boundary between self and other. And one thing this psychedelic seems to do is dissolve that boundary. So you no longer feel like you're an individual, but you feel something else, like you're part of some greater being, and that may be part of how it works.
Okay, so you attribute that to a function of the brain. Do you distinguish the mind from the brain?
That is a very difficult question. I I don't I don't know what the relationship is. I'm not sure that we have any research that speaks to that, but it is a very fascinating question. Um, I mean, the reason I say that the brain is computing that difference between uh, what's myself and everything else, like I think there's a basis, like evidence to support that. There's a book by Antonio Damasio. It's the what's it? The Descartes' Error, I think is the title, where he shows how like insults to the brain damage, can profoundly change how people experience the world.
Hmm. Having a TBI certainly changes the capacity of the brain to function, and I think most my experience and my familiarity with uh, psychology research is neuroscience, as well as just general neuroscience, and I think philosophers of philosophy of the mind concur, in my perspective, erroneously, that the originating entity that is processing thought is the brain. And my, if you've done any reading or research with individuals that have experienced an NDE, a near death experience, um, even after their uh, demise, are still processing thought. Uh,
Yeah, that is a very puzzling fact. I mean, I guess I could call it a fact. Like we have researchers that are studying that, studying recalled experiences of death, and I review some of that research in my book. And I don't know what to make of it. I feel like I can't disbelieve it because there's just too much evidence, but I don't understand how that could happen either, and I'm not sure anyone does.
okay. Well, I know from personal experience that you can, um, in meditation, you can induce that transition from physical perspective to that NDE experience where you actually leave your body and you can come back into your body. And you do still have a perception of self. You still do have um, um, you are still undergoing the process of processing thought. And matter of fact, there's a great degree of amazement that you can be outside of your body, look down on your body, and still have a significant perception of self without any apparent input from the brain. And I know from the guidance that I have received from my teachers that the mind is we are a mind body spirit, and there is a significant difference in or distinction between the mind and the brain. The brain being part of the body is a manifestation. The condition of the brain and the condition of the body is a manifestation of the mind. The mind tells the brain how to be. And I know from my mental health practice that when you transform a person's identity, their perception of self, that requires a significant amount of healing of distortions of perception of the self, beliefs. And as you change that, then many, if not most of those conditions that they have conditioned their body to be in almost immediately heal.
Yeah, I don't dispute. That sounds plausible to me. I'm not sure what to make of these reports of out of body experiences. It's very fascinating.
Okay. Well, I don't
Yeah,
recommend you try it just to see what happens. You'll have to wait
right.
your turn for the official transition,
Yeah.
or hopefully you will. Okay. So, where does religion in our culture come from? If it is a strategic figure to almost the entirety of the world population in one form or fashion. Even folks professing atheism still have a concept of religion and or a creator,
Hmm.
whether they endorse it or not.
Yeah.
Um, they do have some sort of concept of that. And in your work, what is the value of that? Why do we perpetuate that aspect of our experience?
Okay, but let me just start with defining religion, and I'm going to use the same definition that Kars proposed, which is to suggest that it's a working definition, meaning that it's not perfect. It's kind of captures the class of things, but not very well. But it's an attempt. So mm, there's three components. One is community, there's community, identity, and the longevity. So a religion should have a name that would be like identity, so like Buddhism or Hinduism, and then a community around it, and that has to sustain through time. And Kars's idea was that um, religions are these communities that sustain through a lot of time. So like they're not just like he would distinguish political systems or belief systems from religions by how long they've been around. So maybe a cutoff might be 1,000 years. So if some community is sticking around for 1,000 years, then we should consider labeling it a religion. But if it's something shorter term than that, then we may be less sure whether it's a religion or not. Does that make
Well,
sense?
it's almost become a legal definition at this point because of taxation laws. I think Scientology is an illustration of that. It's a relatively new religion on the frontier, but it was called a religion because it was necessary to qualify under some tax qualifications. But What is your perception of the foundation of most major religions in your research?
Well, I think people subscribe to a religion because they believe that it's advancing human flourishing at some level. I think that's why people are religious.
What is the founding belief of most major religions?
Um, okay, so in my belief, in my book, I point out that belief can serve different purposes. And so, for example, certain practices require beliefs to enable exploration. If you're going to practice meditation, you have to believe that you can sit still, that um, you can train your mind, that you can actually learn how to meditate, like that's even possible. You have to believe that the practice is leading somewhere useful, that you might want to go. So these are beliefs that enable exploration, but there's another set of beliefs that don't really have anything to do with that. They're just kind of furniture that maybe taking up mental space in your head, like whether Jesus physically rose from the dead, or Buddha achieved enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, or miracles described in the scriptures, or metaphorical, not literal, or maybe you believe they're literal. Like these beliefs are more like answers to questions that that may be limiting exploration. That's why it's important to think about the function of the beliefs that you're holding. Like, do they enable exploration, or draw it to a close?
Most of the references that I've associated with what you just said lean towards the mysticism of religion, and keep it vague so that the population cannot have conclusive material to uh, uh, be critical of. If it's mystic, then obviously it's beyond our capacity to understand with any um, uh, intensity. But uh, my own analysis of religions that around the world are founded on the predicate that there is a God, which is a religious concept, and then there is us. In other words, there is a perception of separation from the Creator, which, upon analysis, if you and I think most religions perceive on a monolithic that do perceive of a monolithic God perceive that Creator to be infinite. And if that's true, then you have to ask, what does infinite mean? Well, infinite by its very nature compels the answer of everything. The only numerical value that is infinite is one. Any other number is finite. And so, if all is one, and you perceive yourself as separate from the Creator, then that's two. So that's a finite perception. And uh, every religion that I'm familiar with, other than some aspects of the Sikh religion and Hinduism, perceive that foundational perception of separation, which lends itself to one of the books that I've written, Edifying Children of a Lesser God, because it is the perception that creates God as a lesser being, because we perceive ourselves as separate.
Mm-hmm.
And therein is the difficulty with community and neighbors and things of that nature, that while that gives us great comfort and serves as a foundation for surrendering that perception of separation as we evolve, it also at our level of consciousness magnifies that sense of perception, of separation. So it's a conundrum at our range of consciousness only.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Having stated all of that, I don't know how that fits into your
Okay.
perceptions of that you put forth in your book. But
Well, you've narrated that example very beautifully, and I mean, it's an example that I'm familiar with, and the logic you have, like your arguments around it, like they resonate for me. But coming from my book's perspective, like, so you're saying that there's this belief in God, but would removing this beliefs change which practices you engage in? Is the question I'd pose to you. Like, in my mind, it's the religious, the practices prescribed by the religion that are um, like that's the key thing to focus on. And I'm not sure that like certainly we don't want to feel separate from or this sense of separation like that's a um, something that I would also like to address. But whether we believe in God or not, like, how does that affect which religious practices we're willing to engage in?
how does it? I think the more adherently we remain with those as our foundational beliefs, the more it perpetuates our submission to the religion without critical thought.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So and mm, so and I think that aligns with like the recommendation I have in the book to reduce the conviction in what I would call a content belief, like the belief that God exists, and to um, focus on uh, identifying the critical process beliefs we need to advance our self-development,
Hmm.
so that because I'm not sure that whether you believe in God or not, like I'm not sure, um, what is that belief? What are you getting from that, getting out of that belief? It sounds like um, you're just getting limitations out of it, right?
Right,
Is that what I'm
right,
hearing?
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Well, we are on an enlightenment path, and people, for the most part, misperceive what enlightenment is. They perceive it as a destination because of the successes of the Buddha. Uh, uh, the enlightenment path is synonymous with the evolution of consciousness. And I don't know whether you've come to any conclusions about consciousness in the course of your work. Have
Well,
you?
I do. I do have a chapter that talks about altered states of consciousness, and I think a good starting place is just to define what consciousness is.
Hmm.
My
That's a great
definition,
place.
okay, my definition is it's what goes away when you're administered general anesthesia,
Okay.
and so that, like there's nobody there anymore. There's no interior experience, and psychedelics may just like anesthesia reduces consciousness. Some psychedelics may amplify it.
In most instances, things that, like you're describing, are that knock us out or whatever, reduce our awareness, don't they? Does it necessarily eliminate our thought? Because I know that in my experiences, even with medicinal um, uh, drugs, I'm still processing thoughts, even though I'm not feeling pain and I'm not interacting with the environment around me. I'm still processing thoughts.
Hmm. So it sounds like you're you're still conscious because, like you're saying, you're still processing thought. That means there's someone there. There's an interior experience. So you're still conscious, but maybe conscious with a less awareness or a different kind of awareness of your environment.
Hmm. Certainly. We're not, I'm not, you're not adding sensory input, sound, sight, taste, touch,
Okay.
that sort of
Hmm.
thing.
I see. So you're restricting the usual sensory input, but you still have a sense of consciousness because you're there with your
You're
mind.
still processing thoughts. And it is
Yeah.
still in an environment, even though it's not in the environment that you're physically in.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're aligned on how to understand those experiences.
Okay. So does that not suggest that consciousness is uh, continuing even though that we're not physically interacting with the immediate environment?
Well, yeah, it does suggest that. I mean, the other examples you've raised suggest it more strongly, like the recalled experiences of death that people have, where they're their brain is literally dead as far as scientists can define that, and they still seem to be conscious in some sense, which is very puzzling.
As a psychologist, are you familiar with what people call channeling, communicating with higher consciousness beings?
Um, yes, and I covered that in chapter 4, I guess, along with uh, like people who seem to recall, or children who seem to recall past lives,
Hmm.
um, and which is another puzzling phenomena. Um, Now the possession experiences, that's that's an interesting one. Uh, um, what where does your interest lie regarding the possession type experiences?
Well, first of all, getting back to the question of the mind,
Okay,
and we have available we exist as on everything that we experience as consciousness. Everything that
sure.
we are, everything we experience is consciousness. But consciousness varies because uh, uh, for the lack of a better description, it is stratified into a multitude and infinite number of layers. And those layers are distinguished by the degree of perception of separation, which is actually what free will is. We perceive free will as the choice to turn right or to turn left, but the reality is free will is our perception of separation, and it works very much like an intoxicant. The more intoxicated you are with whiskey, the more foolish things that you do because your awareness is significantly decreased. The same is true with free will. The more intoxicated that you are with free will, the more distant from source that you perceive yourself to be. And so the more variant your behavior in perceptions.
Hmm.
The
Uh,
Go ahead.
okay, I think I see where you're going with this. Um, you're uh, you're thinking about what separates us from kind of the non-dual experience, or the like a transcendental experience. Is that where you're going with this? Or
Well, that certainly is part of the experience, and I think one of the more reputable references for that is Richard Alpern. You may be familiar with Ram Dass and his experiences as a psychologist with Harvard and his LSD experiences. And
Mhm.
of course, Timothy Leary went with the LSD perpetual experience, and Ram Dass or Richard Alpern went more from what you're supposed to learn from a hallucinogenic experience. Is he got a peek behind the curtain, a
Right.
significant peek behind the curtain, and pursued achieving that condition of being without the aid of the hallucinogenic.
Okay. Um, and so you're saying that this sense of free will and the sense of separation is what is like holding us back from the transcendental experience.
Well,
Is that right?
yes. Yeah, well, but yes, and also too, we're designed to create this hierophant, which is a false perception of self by its very nature. It's a false
Okay.
perception of self,
Hmm.
and that is the sole source of our experience of stress and ultimately suffering if we don't uh, exercise awareness in the process. And so,
Okay. Well, I'd just like to propose an alternative account of what's separating us from this transcendental experience, if you're up for it.
sure, absolutely, always open for ideas.
Okay. Maybe for the listeners, I could introduce internal family systems.
Sure, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I
So,
have some history of experience with it, but it's been several years.
okay. So internal family systems is a talk therapy model, and it was developed by Richard Schwartz some decades ago. Dr. Schwartz was trained as a family therapist, and but as he was working with individual clients with eating disorders, he noticed that his clients were describing um, their inner ecology, or they were describing their inner experience as if they were like different individuals or subpersonalities within themselves, or different parts. So maybe one part would be complaining about how painful it is. Another part might come in and try to address that pain by eating, and maybe another part would come in and shame them for eating. So noticing this analogy between how he worked with families and the reports of the inner experience from his clients, that's how he made this analogy, but this connection. And the easiest way to understand parts is to recall a time when you had mixed feelings. Suppose you were driving to work late. So a part of you wants to get there on time. A part of you may be afraid of being pulled over by the police, and then another part may be frustrated with yourself for not allowing, not leaving enough time to drive to work leisurely. So internal family systems is a systematic approach for helping to unpack mixed feelings and clarify them into the um, individual subpersonality components, these parts, and also to improve the harmony and the trust, and to improve the relationship among your parts, and also between you and your parts.
Dr. Aman, is famous for his brain scan collection of thousands of brain scans, promotes the idea of compartmentalization. And this is what you're describing essentially is similar to that compartmentalization theory,
Okay, yes.
is it not?
Like, I'm not familiar with that specific person, but compartmentalization in general, yeah, it maps very closely onto internal family systems. In fact, I would say like dissociative identity disorder is when you parts become too compartmentalized. They're actually like fenced off from each other by
Right.
amnesiac barriers. So you like the parts don't even know what's going on with other parts, even within a single person.
And what is it that allows us to break down those parts and to heal from those distortions of perception? What aspect of us is it?
Right. So as a facilitator of internal family systems, what I'm helping my clients do is to just meet their internal landscape with curiosity, and get to know all the parts that show up, and then to try to build trust. Like the key thing is to develop trust between parts, and between parts in the self. And as we develop more and more trust, then um, that's how we can reduce the compartmentalization, and improve our our ability to flourish, and also improve our ability to our freedom, like in the sense that we'll have more choices available to us and more freedom to choose.
Okay. Uh, I started to address the enlightenment process earlier, and we left that again
Exactly.
to go to some other important questions. But enlightenment is essentially the process of sobering from this free will intoxication. Higher consciousness is nothing more than consciousness that has significantly sobered from that free will intoxication, and so their um, creatorness is significantly exposed. What we are designed to do, and we exist within a range of consciousness that's very low on the scale. And each range of conscience, 8 ranges of consciousness, the 2 below us are foundational. And they're considered to be foundational because the awareness is so low that the consciousness does not have the capacity to assume responsibility for their advancement within the evolutionary process. The first range of consciousness is what we would perceive to be inorganic matter. The second range of consciousness is what we would perceive to be organic matter, plants and animals. We are the first range of consciousness with the sufficient capacity in order to assume responsibility for our healing and advancement forward. And the ranges above us are significantly more capable than we are, only because of their degree of achievement of surrendering that free will participation and accessing, recognizing, and functioning with more of their creatorness exposed, less of their identity opposed, less of their hierophant. Uh, Happiness is the measure of how we're doing, but it is our condition of being that we are naturally. It's not something that we can get. It's not something that we can give. It's something that we are or we're not. And what determines our degree of happiness is the degree of um, um, stress that we can still experience. The reason we create this identity, this hierophant, is to essentially require us to experience a multitude of things that we don't like, which by definition is stress. And certainly that's a spectrum that ranges everything from the very minor to what we would deem to be a trauma. The task, our range, graduating from the range of consciousness that we experience, has a specific curriculum that we are to learn. We're in 3rd grade and we have to learn the curriculum of 3rd grade to prepare to do the work of 4th grade, or we won't be able to do the 4th grade work. And what we are tasked with,
Well, sorry, Dean, if I could jump in here, like
yeah, sure.
like I feel like you're describing your model of self development in more detail, and which is fascinating.
Hmm.
Um, uh, I was hoping to compare your model and my model. I'm also worried about like the time, like how how are we doing on time?
Well,
I'm just trying to check the calendar here.
I'm good with the time if you are. If you have something else that we need to break for, then we can shoot towards that. But
Yeah, so I have another appointment at noon. So
okay, okay,
we
all
just
right.
have
Well,
like
let's
10 minutes
hurry
here.
along then. Um, and
Okay.
and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to dominate the conversation. What I was leading up to was the definition of a mind, and what we
Okay.
perceive, what we function with, it's a mind. Actually, we have several minds that are available to us because we exist in all ranges of consciousness simultaneously, and our capacity to access those is contingent upon our degree of awareness.
Okay.
And what Jung was describing by his definition of the true self was actually a mind that we are, that is our metaphysical self, that we um, project from in order to experience an incarnation, and we return to upon death. And so those folks that are transitioning from death in a near death experience are simply headed back towards the reintegration with our metaphysical self.
Okay.
But the mind is actually nothing more than a bundle of beliefs. And certainly
Okay.
having access to multiple minds, those are ever diminishing authenticity of distortion.
Hmm. Okay. I don't think I'll have enough time to it's very interesting to hear you narrate that. I'm not sure I'll have enough time to address it. What I do wanted to get to before we go is, do you have like a meditation practice
I
that you
do,
follow?
yes. Yeah,
Okay.
I've been a meditation instructor for about 25 years.
Okay, great. And is the audience familiar with how meditation works?
Some of them are, many of them are not.
Okay. Um, well, so it was just very briefly, the way you practice meditation is maybe you sit down somewhere quiet and then you pick something to focus on. One popular thing to focus on is your breath. So
Hmm.
let's just, I mean, it could be lots of different things, but just for the sake of this discussion, let's,
Yeah, as a transition
um,
tool. Yeah.
okay. Um, now, um, so the way I think about this is to think about the meditation practice in terms of internal family systems. So
Okay.
when what often happens when you're practicing meditation is you find that you've become absorbed in a thought or feeling, and you've lost track of the focus of your breath. And the usual recommendation or the usual instructions are to notice that and to bring your mind back to the focus, bring your attention back to the breath.
Hmm.
But um, uh, the the change in process that I would suggest is when you notice you've become absorbed in a distraction, like that's not an error, it's not noise, it's that's an important that's an important part of your experience that you should
Hmm.
say have a notepad next to you and jot down what the concern is of that part that's interrupting you. So maybe you're planning what to make for dinner, or thinking about an argument you had with your friend yesterday, something like that. So note down what it is that's distracting you, and then after your meditation session, come back to those notes and review them, and make sure that those parts that showed up, they get some attention, they feel heard, and also see if you can um, make some progress towards addressing their needs. And this accomplishes several things that go beyond a normal or a regular meditation practice. You're um, ensuring that those the parts, like you're building a trusting relationship with those parts that interrupted you, and you're also teaching them patience, like in the sense that they should develop the trust with you that you're going to address your needs and they don't have to interrupt you during your meditation session.
Hmm.
So by using this modified form of meditation, that's how you can develop more effortlessness in your meditation, because you will find that you have fewer distractions, and that's kind of um, um, the process that like shows up in a few different contexts in the book. So like meditation is one way to build trust with your parts, and then I also look at a few other ways of uh, developing that trusting relationship. In my mind, it's the trust with your parts, that your parts developing trust in your self leadership is the key thing that you need to enable transcendent experiences.
Okay. And when you're visiting these different parts, as you described, that reoccurring or visitation with that
Hmm.
part? Is that not part of the part and process of desensitization, the familiarity of visiting that and taking the emotion off of it?
Um, Maybe. Yeah, I mean, it sounds plausible. Like I feel I'm looking at the time, and I would love to. Maybe we could uh, continue this conversation at another time.
Love to. Yeah, love
Like
to.
it feels like there's lots of more nooks and crannies to explore, and I've really enjoyed our discussion today, and feel like it sets us up to dive deeper next time.
Okay, love to. Yeah, do you have any words of wisdom you'd like to share with our folks before we depart this episode?
um, I'm not sure words of wisdom, but I would invite all the listeners, even if you are not sure if you're interested in my book, I would invite you to the book's website, unburdened.biz, B-I-Z. There you can find my email address, as well as a promo video that I put together for the book that I'm really proud of. It shows a ceremony happening on a shallow sandbar in the middle of the ocean. I think it's spectacular video, and I would invite you um, to take a look at it.
Super. Joshua, thank you very much for this. I look forward to continuing this conversation and a future episode. We just call it episode 2 in the offing. Or sequel, isn't that the movie wise what you call a second coming?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well,
Call it
I'm
a
going to click
sequel.
off for now. And if you'll hold on just a minute,